Good morning and welcome to another video with a guy and his projects. I lost the intro, forgot to film the intro. I don't know what I did or didn't do on this video, but essentially today we are removing the engine out of this blue 4.7 liter WJ. That's a 2002 Jeep Grand Cherokee. First thing I did was remove the hood just to give me some more room, and then I started removing this intake. Pretty much I'm just going to take everything off that looks like it's in the way, and at this point I had decided to leave the air box, the bottom half in. We end up taking that out with the radiator later, so if you want to take it out, go for it. These upper radiator hoses I'm going to be replacing anyway, so if you find it easier to just cut them off, go for it. Not a big deal. I'm replacing pretty much all the rubber I can with this engine replacement. That's going to be up to you. So as you saw, just get rid of this. Mine were pretty seized in, so grabbed a pick and ripped it off. These things are a lifesaver. I will try to remember to link it down in the description below. If I forget, remind me in the comments. All of your plastic, all of your hoses, all of your electrical needs to come off. We started with the throttle body and kind of just started working my way down, and then I got a little sporadic and started bouncing around, but essentially your spark plugs are going to come out, your fuel injectors, your throttle body, everything connected to your alternator and your AC. Sorry, it was really bumpy right there, but so your alternator right here, as I'm taking that apart, pretty much there's only two connectors. You have the post right there and then a little plug-in in the back. That was pretty easy to get to. Let's see, where do I go next here? Still on the alternator. Boom, boom, boom. Alright, so this is your AC compressor. Gonna pull that off, and then you've got a couple connections into your intake plenum behind that. Those were kind of hard to get to. I wasn't planning on removing the AC and alternator. We end up removing those eventually, so I would just go ahead and advise removing those now, get them out of the way. I was hoping they could stay, but they needed to come off later. So I spent a lot more time struggling with the map sensor right there than I really needed to, but alright, so AC lines, make sure you get this properly evacuated before you start. Mine was definitely very empty. There was a blown line, so nothing for me to worry about there. I try to put bolts back in where I can so I don't have to keep track of nearly as many later in a pile. Alright, let's talk about the battery tray. Battery tray is a pain in the butt, man. Holy crap. Chrysler, or not Chrysler, who is this? Jeep Mopar is exceptionally scared of this battery tray coming loose for some reason. I don't know what their method is. I feel like they think the entire Jeep connects to this battery tray. There's like 1,800 bolts. There's 14 million clips. And then, of course, to top it all off, you can't reach any of them. The fuse box right here has to move up. You have to take that off of the battery tray because that also connects into the battery tray, and then there is a bolt behind the fuse box holding the battery tray to the fender there. So to get this off, you've got two little bolts or nuts right here sitting on studs, and then I just pulled that electrical off. Get this off the battery tray, move it from all the clips. I believe there's 4 in total. And then once you do that, you can get that extra bolt that's holding it to the fender. But you're still not there. You're also going to have a bolt up front near the grill. You're going to have a bolt that holds the receiver dryer down for the air conditioner. And then underneath, just in case you thought you were done, there's an electrical connection in that little round piece you see right there kind of moving around. There's a little electrical connector down there with a very short pigtail, so I don't know why they couldn't make that pigtail a little bit longer so you can reach it. There's really not a good way to get that electrical connector out. So you see how much time I've been spending on this battery tray. Literally very, very frustrating to get out. I don't know why, but it is what it is. Eventually though, we'll get there. Here it comes, or so you would like to think. I end up going downstairs here in just a second, and there's a ground that this electrical cable is holding on that wasn't letting me get the battery tray out, so I had to go all the way down underneath the Jeep right here into the block and undo this electrical, this ground, negative cable, whatever you want to call it, right above the O2 sensor. I was able to pull that pigtail up, which then gave me enough room to get the battery tray out. So, like I said, pain in the butt. At this point, I was able to reach down and finally get that electrical connector out as well with a pair of, adjustable pliers, because all the plastic is super old and stuck in. And we're almost there. By the way, guys, if you like what you see, make sure you hit subscribe. I don't typically do the voiceovers. This is a special case. This was a big project. I had the radio going and, YouTube and copyright claims and all that stuff. So voiceover is this on this project. Alright, battery tray is out. Now the front clip. We're not going to remove the grill and everything, but we are going to remove the radiator, which means this big old bracket has to come out. It's held in by a series of nuts and bolts and a couple plastic pieces. So this is another one where it's pretty much the front end of the Jeep is built around this. Why Mopar does this stuff, I don't know, but I was not able to get this bracket out very freely. Yep, don't forget your hood latch, because it kind of loops in and out of all kinds of stuff, and I ended up breaking one of the headlight tabs. I'll JB weld that back on later, but yeah, so it kind of weaves in and out of itself, and really annoying, but it did come out pretty easily. I just ended up accidentally breaking one of the headlight tabs, but it's not too wiggly or anything, so not a big deal. Alright, from here, we're going to disconnect the radiator from its brackets. Having an electric ratchet is super nice on this stuff. I've only owned this electric ratchet since, I don't know, the last 6 months, and it's come in very handy. It's not very powerful, but it's very handy. Alright, so the radiator is another one. I didn't show it on camera, but on the bottom side of the radiator, or the fan shroud assembly, there is some hydraulic connections from the power steering pump, a couple of electrical pieces. All that stuff has to come out as well. This is the power steering cooler. I just got that out of my way. And what else was in the way? I don't remember. The condenser I left in place. I never took out the condenser. Looking back at it, as much time as I spent on this, I think it would have been easier to take the grill and bumper and condenser out, but for the purpose of this video, that's about as far as the condenser ever came out right there. But the radiator is out, so we are looking promising, guys. This lower radiator hose, of course, that's going to come out. Again, super seized in place. Cut it if you have to. I'm replacing it anyway for the most part. So alright, guys, we are getting much closer. I think we're actually going to get this pulled out in a matter of hours. I kind of figured this would be an all-day endeavor to get the engine out, but as it is, I started at about 9 o'clock. It's 1 o'clock now. I just took an hour break for lunch, ran to the parts store for some stuff. So if I'm about as close as I think I am, I guess it would be about a day by the time I get this out. But this is where we're at. Got the radiator removed. Unfortunately, power steering cooler came with it. That's all my removed parts. Who cares? We've got all this stuff. We've got all of our lines disconnected from everything that matters as far as I know. We got our throttle cables and whatnot taken care of. We've got all of our spark plugs unbolted, all of our fuel injectors unbolted. Half of those broke, unfortunately. I'll figure that out later. We've got, as far as I can tell, all of our vacuum lines undone. And then I've got to take, I got to take the fuel rail right here off, which I can do in just a second. And then I think we can undo the undo the bell housing and strap this up and take the motor mounts apart, I think. I could be wrong. We'll find out when I get there, but as of right now. So on the bottom, I did do the O2 sensors. I did the 2 primary O2 sensors, and I removed the exhaust, the exhaust flanges off from the Y pipe. So I think we're looking all right. In my brain, this is how it's going to work. We're going to hook it up to those 2 posts. We're going to slide it forward, of course, after everything's disconnected, and then straight up and out. And it should be as easy as that. So I thought removing this fuel line was going to be pretty simple. It turned out to be quite the chore. I have a variety of fuel line removal tools, and I tried them all, not necessarily on camera, but the one that ended up working is this metal one. I have a bunch of different plastic options. I couldn't get most of the plastic options to fit, so this metal one worked best. Over on the left side of your screen right now, you can see that I am removing the Schrader valve, and this is only to reduce some pressure in the system. I don't know if this helped. I don't know if you need to. I don't know if you don't need to, but I was struggling, so I figured I'd give it a try. But yeah, so these metal fuel line removal tool, yellow metal, that's what allowed me to get that off. A lot easier than the plastic ones that weren't fitting, and the one that's on the fuel line itself just wasn't working out for me either. Alright, little update as to where we are at. So, I don't remember the last update, but essentially we cut that off. We're just going to replace the entire exhaust at this point, because it looks pretty rough anyway. But what we ended up doing is there's the bell housing bolt on the driver's side over here, back down there. I couldn't see it, but I could feel it, and I got my 14mm ratchet wrench down there, and I got that out. All the other bolts are accessible except for the same one. This is right below the valve, or the head, whatever you want to call it, on the passenger side. I think it's right behind the transmission dipstick. I can't get my hand down far enough to feel it. I can't see it. It's pretty much invisible. I know it's there because on the new engine there's a hole there, so there's got to be a bolt there, and I can't get it. So what I did was I went ahead and I disconnected the motor mounts, and I dropped the engine down so that the headers are resting on the body of the Jeep, and I was hoping that would give me enough angle to get in there and reach. Negative, still can't reach. So what we're doing now is we're taking the air intake off, and we're going to get rid of this. Hopefully that allows me enough room to get my hand in there and reach the bottom portion there. Alright, so at this point I decided to remove the throttle body because I thought I was being hung up on that. I think you can actually leave the throttle body there. But to get this plenum out, this fuel line, you can see behind the alternator and radiator, that part that kind of loops up and around, that seemed to be keeping me from getting the plenum out, so I removed that whole fuel rail. And then this is when I decided and realized that, oh hey, I'm going to have to remove the alternator and the compressor because I can't wiggle this out. You could try and remove the what do you want to call it? The wiper cowl. Yeah, there you go, the cowl. But there's a metal piece right below it, so it's not really going to give you much more room. Stupid dipstick, get out of my way. Holy crud, what a pain in the butt that was. Woo! Alright. So you probably wouldn't have to do any of this intake stuff, your AC compressor, your alternator, except for this one dadgum stupid bolt right there. I could not reach it for nothing. So it's right for your reference in case you're trying to feel this out. I was looking over here by the transmission dipstick, but it's actually over here behind your oil dipstick. So if you follow your oil dipstick down, it'll be right there, right behind it. You can see where the wrench is sitting right now. So I'm going to take that off. That was a much more pain in the butt than it had to be. Holy crud. But with the new one, I'm just going to drop it in. I'm going to take the intake stuff all off ahead of time because it's also going to make it a lot easier to get your PCV system in and all that stuff. So I think it's just going to be easier to take all this off from the get-go instead of trying to leave it on. And then you're obviously going to have a lot more room to play with when you're pulling this out. So next one I'll just leave in. All right, let me get that out, and then I gotta go down below, do the rest of the bell housing, and then at that point we should be ready to pull it out, I hope. And remove it we did. I was unable to get the torque converter off of the engine because the engine is seized. So I ended up having to take the torque converter with the engine, which was actually a little bit more difficult than I assumed. It was a lot of yanking the engine towards the grill with the hoist, which is probably not the best method of doing that, but I didn't know what else to do. I didn't get that on film because I was slightly frustrated at the time, and well, you know, things happen. So at this point, once you get the torque converter off, if you can, whether you're leaving it with the transmission or taking it with the engine, The engine popped right out. It was super easy. There's plenty of room to get it up and over. Obviously, you don't want the hood on, and the radiator being gone helped dramatically. I don't know that you could have fit it with the radiator in place. Remember, guys, I've got a donor engine that needs to go in this. I'll be filming that as well. I've got to switch over a bunch of parts, buy some new parts for that donor engine. We're going to replace the harmonic balancer, the tensioner, the water pump, all that stuff. I'm going to do some valve covers and oil pan and all that good stuff. If you want to see that, make sure you hit subscribe, hit thumbs up, hit the notification bell. That's all coming. We've got tons of Jeeps, we've got trucks, we've got cars, we've got vans. Pretty much everything I do on the vehicles I try to film for you. I'm not a mechanic, but I'm not unfamiliar with these vehicles at this point. I'm good at figuring things out, and that's what I do. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. I'm pretty excited to get the new engine in, and I'm actually really excited. This is going to be a fun little Jeep once we're ready to roll, and that shouldn't be too far from now. So stay tuned, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.